Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, Shir sponsor Lunishmas Ambi Hakashom Navas Yitzchok. We're holding in Sanhedrin Daf Samech Dalet. The Gemara, the Ma'aser in the middle of the Sugya. It's an own standalone raya that we're going to bring, which is a very important Gemara. There's a Gemara that we had also in Maseches Yuma, but we're in the middle of the Sugya because the Gemara said that Am Yisrael didn't really believe in Avodah Zarah. Why did they do Avodah Zarah? They just wanted to be matel and marayas, and this there is to mention the Menachem ben Shiklov was a Talmud of Vilna Gaon, brings the name of the Vilna Gaon, and I heard this several times from my Rebbe Moshe Shapir Zatzal, and I saw today that Reuben Margolius and his Margolius Hayam brings it as well, that the Menachem ben Shiklov says the name of the Vilna Gaon, the Kabbalah that he has from his Rebbe, that any time there was a pirza of the Zarah in Am Yisrael, any time, there was also a pirza of Znus. It always came hand in hand. There was never only if it, like when Am Yisrael did Avodah Zarah, did Znus as well. And this is what really this Gemara. The Gemara says really the only reason they wanted to do Avodah Zarah was because they really were big believers of Avodah Zarah, but they wanted to do Znus. Now
that doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because you're on one Avera, so you can do another Avera.
No, it's not.
Why not just skip the middle Avera?
It's not a logical thing. Right. It's we mentioned yesterday.
It's the Yetzer Hara.
It's Yetzer, right? But it goes together. It goes hand in hand.
You're saying it's the Yetzer Hara by desire is really the Yetzer Hara for right.
They go to right, exactly. And what is it? It like triggers you that you know what, this religion is not for me because of one. And might say, okay, I do that all the also the segues not only over the Zohar, but like the Reform movement and Scholars, always people that were Roshi Inyan were Parutz B'Znus. Because really that was.
Also, it's not burned, but
that's right.
Yeah.
So the Gemara now says, 1 second, but we find places where people were mamish to cover the Zohar. So that was after they already got used to doing the Zohar. So it now became, it became an ideal. So now the Gemara brings another raya, which is like we said, sugya on its own. Tashma, where in the Fsukhdal, 5 lines from the top. Actually, yeah. Tashma, veizaku bekoil gadol el Hashem elokeim. So it says that they daven, they scream out loud in Chemio, scream out loud to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mayon, what did they say? Bayo. Bayo is a type of scream. Gnus v'tzako says, like a ho in Lashon HaKodesh. Hainu, what's Hainu? The Yitzhar over the Zorro, the Achrever lebeisa. That caused the Beis Hamikdash to be destroyed. V'kalyo leicholo, and burned the Eichel. V'katlinu l'tzadiki, and caused Am Yisrael, the tzadikim, to be dead. V'aglinu l'Yisrael ma'arai, and he took Am Yisrael to go to Galus. V'adainu miraket beinon, and it's still among us. Klum yahav t'leon ela kabuli be'ago. And here's the big Yisrael. Why do we have Yetzer Hara? The only reason we have Yetzer Hara is for the purpose of reward, of schar. Meaning?
It's no,
I'm putting you on mute because I just hear some noise coming from you. So the only reason we have Yetzer Hara is for us to be challenged, and once we're challenged, we get rewarded. That's all. Lo iu beinu v'lo yagu beinu. It's too much. That Avodah Zarah right now, it's asking from us too much. We're not interested. We don't want the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah anymore. So what do you see over here? That they really wanted to do Avodah Zarah for its own purpose. They couldn't leave the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. Says the same answer we had in the previous 2 cases. It was after they were already so connected to it, so they couldn't stop, and now it became an ideal. So one goes on to say the story. Yasvut lasoyom tanis. For 3 days they did a tanis for the tefillah to get rid of the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. Ba'u rachme, nafag lehu pitko merikio, came a paper from Shemayim, tavechtibo emes. It says emes. The signature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, is emes. A lot of Torah about this. What does it mean? Chotam HaKadosh Baruch Hu emes. But that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu signed, so to speak, with emes. Emes is mitchil of emsa saif. And in Mela what? In Mela that was a signature, because as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave haskoma. I agree to this. Nofa kegurya the Nuri B'Tzkot HaKadosh came out a little lion calf from the Beis Hamikdash for Kodesh HaKadosh. So the Novi says this is the Yetzer Hara of the Zohar. His small line. As a catching him, a hair fell off him. And he screamed, he roared this line 400 parcel. What should we do? Maybe now he's screaming so much. I should bring, meaning Shemayim, they'll say there's a need to have the Tzara of the Zar. Should you put him into a bucket made out of lead, and cover with lead, the shaif kala that you can't hear the noise. He put it into the ephod, put a first lead on it, and he sealed it. That's understand what it means. It's not literally. Obviously, there's some meaning over here that we put the Yitzhar in a way that we don't have it. So they got rid of the Yitzhar of the Zar. Well, we got rid of the Yitzhar of the Zar. So let's take away the Yitzhar of Arayas too. So again, they daven. The Yitzhar was given to them. So for 3 days, they jailed him. Trying to find an egg that was born that day, they couldn't find it. Because there was no chimum, there's no yetzer, there's no taiva, and even an egg that's born on its own was not born. So that's what it is. Amru, what should we do? You buy palgo, they should do half. There would be yitzhar for things that you're allowed to. Not for things you're down, not for our rights. Palga me'akir lo yav. They don't give half. So what do you do instead? Kachlinu le'eni. They put mark on his eye, basically blind him. So the eye means that whatever you see, whatever is close to you, don't have yitzhar. Takes away the natural yitzhar the person has to his mother, to his sister. But as Rashi says, Shemidas still remains. Now here we see something very interesting. The yitzhar of Arayas is yitzhar that's needed for the kiyum of the oil. It's brought down that there's a Chazal and Sefer HaZoyah bring that the Tzahara of Arayas, it says, will remain lost in Lavoi, and that's what gives us the Chamidu D'Oraiso, the deliciousness of Torah. Because that Haiva that you have for Isha, you can apply it for a woman, and that's considered to be a Yitzhara. It's as if you can use it for good things. So Yitzhara D'Oraiso is needed. Kiyum oil needs it. There was this Goysa, she was very sick. She was very sick. She said, I'm accepting of myself that if I heal, I'm going to go worship every Avodah in the world. That's what she did. She kept her promise. She healed. She went to have every Avodah to worship it. And once she gets to the Peor, she asked the priests, how do you worship this Avodah called Peor? You eat a cabbage, and you drink vinegar, and then you defecate in front of her. Said, I prefer to be sick than to do this type of Avodah. That's not so improper. Says the Gemara, there's a taina now against Am Yisrael. They did worship Baal Peor. They connect to Baal Peor. Let's see Patil. The first malach is they are connected by Baal Peor. It says nitzvodim. What's Patil? It's a sealed barrel. It's a full seal. What about when you speak about Hakadosh Baruch Hu? What did it say? It said the bakim like 2 dates that are connected together. It's not sealed. You can take it out. You have to peel it. So it's less connected to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, connected to the Baal Peor. That's what the Rosh is over here. Masnizatan, no, the opposite. And it's one Baal Peor. It's something like the Isha. It's one Baal Peor is something like a bracelet on a woman's hand. It's not really connected. It moves. You're fully connected. The Maharal here has a beautiful shot. The idea is that it really is talking about essentially or apparently. The first shot is apparently. It looks like Am Yisrael is not so connected to Hashem and they're much more connected to the Zohar. But essentially, really what it is, Am Yisrael is much more connected to Hashem than the Zohar. He was a Jew. He rented his donkey to a nocher. So those days, the way it worked, people that own donkeys, they were like an Uber driver. Like the Uber used the donkey Uber. So Koiso stops him, and he got you hired for the job, and he works. He's the one carrying the donkey. Kevachi Gelapio, go to the or Omruloi Hamtena Chekonis Veitse. So stop a second, I want to go in, I want to do a little bit of void over here. So he wanted to make fun. So I'm going to go in as well. Let me go in as well. Not Jewish. What are you asking questions? I'm Jewish. I want to go check this out. Nichnas, so he wanted to make zilzul over the Zohar. What did he do? Par befonov. He defecated in front of the Zohar. When he cleaned himself with the nose of the Zohar. He wanted so much to disgrace it. So the priest, they praised him. So, this is a new level of avodah. Not only you defecate, you clean yourself with the Zohar. So, in other words, he was trying to cause a disgrace, but it was the opposite. And that's really the conclusion of what we just said. Someone who defecates in front of the Baal Peor, that's the avodah. So even though he has an intention to disgrace it, it doesn't work. Similarly, someone throws a stone to Markulis, even though he's trying to stone it. Now, because of the Beit Torto, he came to this place called Beit Torto. It says the Zohar over here. He took a piece of mud and threw in it. It's like a zilzul. Markulis says, this is the Zohar over here is Markulis. So he says, that's Avodah. But he did it for zilzul. Also, even though he's planning to stone it. He says, you know what? I did something terrible. I didn't realize. Can I go take back the stone? Putting the stone on it or removing the stone from it is wrong. If you take a stone out, you make more room for somebody else to throw it, so you're making it prepare for the next avodah. You have to leave it, even though you did have a desire by mistake. So the Mishnah. Now we're coming into another type of peula they used to do. What's Ma'avir Zar B'Moilech. We'll see in a moment in our Gemara, Ma'avir Zar B'Moilech was not as terrible as it sounds, because they didn't actually burn their kids. Let's see the Gemara. Well, so the Mishnah. Someone gives his kids to the thing called Moilech. And he has to give it to the Moilech. So he has to give it to the Mishorsim, to the priests, and pass it through the fire. He gave it to the priest for Loiv Besh, they didn't put it through the fire. Or every Besh himself put it through the fire. For Loiv Mosallah, he didn't give it to the priest. Both things have to happen. That and you live for Psukim, that's how the Moilech worked. You have to have both. So we have two Mishnayos. One Mishnah speaks of the Zohar. One Mishnah speaks of the Moilech. It's not the same. You see, Moilech is not with the Zohar. So in other words, when you give the kid to the Moilech, the Moilech and over the Zohar, it's any type of avodah. So it was a special ritual. It was not of a desire. It was a ritual that they did by Moilech. And it's not what you do of a desire. So therefore, you're not having any other of a desire. They say the same thing. Why did the Torah says Moilech? Whatever they made it to be a Moilech, even if it's a piece of mud or a pick, it's also Moilech. So that's what it is. Mashwa, it's not Avodah Zarah. They gave it some chashivas. No, there is enough kibbutz. Does the Moilech have to be permanent, or even if you just put a temporary mud, and that becomes Moilech? Says the one that's on the base. It's not chayav until he gives it to the mishor, so the zar, to the priest. And that's what it is. You don't have to give it to be mad. Here, there's a big question of Rishonim. how does he chayav someone else's mavir? Why is it his responsibility? In other words, you're punishing him for the kid going through the fire, but he didn't do it. They gave it to the priest did it. So he didn't actually do it. So either it's exeris hakos, so that's how it works, or that that he is participating. He's not. He gives it to them and leaves. He gives it to them and they come over.
That's part of the invite.
Right. Shene'emar, umizarachol lu'siten la'avi lomer. Tani namiach, yachol le'evir v'lo yimosor. He passed through the fire and he did not give it to the Mishos and Yechayev to lo'imar lu'sitin. He said you have to give. Mosar l'moyich v'lo yehavir, didn't go through the fire. Yachol yechayev to l'havir. Mosar v'yevir shelo l'moyich v'tzadivin avidazara. Yachol yechayev to lo'imar l'moyich. Has to be for the moilech. Mosar v'yevir l'moyich v'lo beish. He made a track so he didn't go through the fire. There's another pasuk. Right there, it speaks about the gabe. Not the first one we mentioned, the Seir Ve'iko, but the one in this one is in Seir Dvarim, and it says there Eish. So you see, it has to be the fire. It has to be. That's what we're talking about. It's only moilech and only the fire. If he took all his children and he transferred them through the moilech, he's bater. Not all your kids, only some of them. Now, the Taisus asks that if we're talking about not all of them, so the first one he did, he's chayav already. Before
It's a whole group.
Oh, so Taisus actually was the whole group together, or he has only one kid. What the Rishoni bothered by is what about it? How can you do asra? Isn't it asra suffix? You give asra. Don't be bothered. He says, I'm planning to do all my kids. What? If asra suffix works. Yeah. Says the Gemara. Boyavashi. What happens if the kid didn't walk? He was sleeping. Yeah, he was blind. He couldn't walk on his own. Or Yoshua, he's sleeping. Ben B'noi Ben Bituma. What about a grandchild? So at least one answer we have. The Tanyo. Ki mizaro nasalamech. Matu v'loim. What is mizaro? Fi shenem alim etzah b'chol ma'avir b'noi bitu b'eish. It says you're not allowed to do moilech with a son and daughter. Ein le'elav b'noi bitu ben b'noi ben bitu or minay. How do you know a grandchild? Tomud loim la betito mizaro. And mizaro. So 1 second. We brought two different pasuk. We start with the pasuk ki mizaro nasalamech. So why do you need that pasuk? And then we ended with Betita Mizar, different pasuk. The first one is in Vayikra Perek Chol Pasuk Gimel. The other one is Pasuk Dalet. Says the one, Tano Pasuk Beilchi Zara V'Soik Betita Mizar. Joshua Achinu is another Joshua. Zara Ainli Ela Zera Kasher Zera Pasuk Minayin. Tamudor Betita Mizar. In other words, one pasuk tells you that it could be a grandchild, and the other pasuk tells you even though it's not a Zera Kasher. It has to do the way you do havar. What is derech havar? You have a row of stones in the middle, and a fire from each side. In other words, not putting him in the fire. He's putting him, there's a fire on the right, fire on the left, and he goes between the fire. The kid does not die. What's the Purio? We're getting close to it. As they do in Purim, Rashi explains. What do they do in Purim? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, towards the end of the narrow lines. If the jump. They used to jump in Purim. Now what happened? What did they do? He jumped from one side of the pit to the other, and there's a fire in between. Maybe then it was more dangerous. Taika said the Rabbi Nechavit Shavino der Chavaro has to be der Chavaro Heviro Baregel Patro, which means that you don't walk, he has to jump. He has to be after his children. Kids of no Yabita Chayav, only his son and daughter. Ovi Vihimoy, his father and mother, if he made his father and mother go through the Moilech, or Ochi Vachois, his brother and sister Patro. Hevir Atzwe Patro, also himself, he went through the Moilech's Patro. Lozor, B'Rab Shimon, Mechayev, he says it's Chayav even on himself. And the Gemara continues, different than what we said before. And Avodah Zarah works. Not only the Moilech. That said in himself, you yourself don't be. Bechol means you should not be going through the Moilech. Don't agree with the Bechol. If he has his own Avedo, or Avedo of his father, who does he bring first? So his goes first. There's a pasuk, don't become poor. Take care of yourself. Support yourself before you support others. So you have to take care of yourself. So you say, well, how do you know you should not be poor? Because it says, you should not be poor. So we're also me'efes. There it says efes. The efes is a loshen hazor. But regularly, that I know I have to dash a bechol. But regularly, when it says bechol, it doesn't dash you, and therefore Rabban don't say to himself, there's a problem in the Moilech. Now, what about Rashi brings? If we learn like the mandama that says there was fire on two sides, and the kids didn't burn. Remember in the previous daf we learned that Chizkiyo went through the fire, and the only reason he was saved because he put in this oil, this blood of someone died. Why? They didn't put it in the fire, in the Moilech. It says Rashi, right, it wasn't a Moilech. Chizkiyo was a different Avodah Zarah. We said over there, Elohei Sepharvim. They went through the fire. They put it in the fire. But that was not the way it did Moilech. Says the Gemara, why it says 3 times creases? What is 3 creases? Rashi brings that it says, by Moilech, it says twice. And he brings the another one, Parashat Shlach. That's he brings. Tosis brings another discussion regarding which psukim is exactly. The Gemara says there's 3 psukim regarding the chorus of Avodah Zarah. Lama. So the question with Rashi asks already: if you hold Moilech is not Avodah Zarah, so it's not Avodah Zarah. You just hear it Avodah Zarah. He says it's called Avodah Zarah, even though it's not. It's in the parsha. It's like in the same, subject, same topic. It says Achaz the Kedarko. You get a Krisu curse, someone who worships Avodah Zarah Kedarko. Chat Shaloi Kedarko, which is not Kedarko. Vechaz the Moilech, and one for the Moilech. Man do'olam Moilech Avodah Zarah who occurs with Moilech Lamali. If it's Avodah Zarah, that's regular Avodah Zarah. It says, well, Lamavi Bunoi Shaloi Kedarko. In other words, Bunoi Shaloi Kedarko, it's a special one by Moilech. So he says, so Rashi explains, because what we found, look at Loshen Rashi. Man do'olam Moilech Avodah Zarah who Bechal Kedarko Kol Shah Avodas Meicha Yavdu Nafko Ba'akosu L'chayav Olav Av B'Shav Avodah Zarah Shein Darko B'Kach. To tell you, every Avodah Zarah you do Moilech is chayav. The only things we found that you have in every Avodah Zarah is the avodas pnim and ashtachavaya. How do I know something else? I know Moilech. That I know from this pasuk. There's a machlekes when it says megadef. Is it the worship of Avodah Zarah or is mekalel, like we said earlier, klapi Hashem? So there it says chorus as well. We have to say chorus again. Kedetani chorus tikoris boilam mazeh tikoris boilam abo. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So it says, chorus over there, it says already, already one time, meaning by Megadif. Now, it says Rabbi Akiva, Megadif is Mevorchas Hashem. That's what it is. And how do you know Olam Haba? Because it says chorus to chorus. But as Toys points out, really that's the Machlekes over there. How do you darshan Megadif? So it says Rabbi Shmuel, I learned the Megadif is Kiva says I hold Megadif is Mevorchas Hashem, so no question on Megadif. But according to Bishmuel, that he learns the Megadif is already Avodah Zarah, so already says chorus. According to you said he chorus to chorus Olam Haba Olam Haba. So what's the third chorus? What about T chorus? So Bishmuel, it's like when they go to Shitosam. That's what they learn. And as well, Rashi points out, Rabbi Shmuel, he says the Nichas goes to Hashem. Unless really there was no Ksivo, because Rabbi Shmuel says Lishitasi is Dibur Kolosh V'Yodom. Could have a Kiva, and don't have to get the Dibur Kolosh V'Yodom, because one is Mevorchas Hashem, and the other 2 are for the Zarah. To tell you, the Nichas also the Olam Haba, which Beis Hashem will discuss once we get to Perek Chelik, the Perek of the Agatas of the Sanhedrin, that speaks about the Ikaris, the Olam Haba. What does it mean exactly? A person loses is Olam Haba. So Gomer will stop over here.